Hello, everyone. Today we are diving into an important topic in chemistry with the title Empirical Formula. Uh, let's get started and simplify this topic together. What is meant by the empirical formula? Here is a definition. It shows the simplest whole number ratio of different atoms or ions in a compound. Okay? Simplest whole number, no decimal, no fraction. Okay, ratio between different atoms or ions in a compound. As you know, molecular formula shows exact number of atoms, like what? Like H2O. Water molecules contain two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen. What's the ratio? 2 to 1. Whether we can simplify this formula? Oh, sure, no. We cannot simplify this formula into another simplest one. So, what about the empirical of water? Empirical of water is the same like molecular. It shows simplest whole number ratio of elements. So, H2O also. Okay? Another example, CO2. CO2 is formed from one carbon and two oxygen. What about its empirical formula? Also the same. We cannot divide on any factor, okay, of these two elements. So we have two examples where the empirical formula is the same like molecular formula, like H2O and CO2. But we have a lot of examples shows big differences between the two formulas. Say, for example, we have N2O4. N2O4, if we have a factor equal to, so divide by 2, we obtain NO2. For P4O10, divide by 2 to obtain P2O5, phosphorus pentaoxide. For this example, C10H22, example of one of hydrocarbons, divide by 2, so we obtain simplest whole number ratio between carbon and hydrogen to get C5H11. Last example here, C3H18O3. The factor now, common factor between the three elements 3. Divide by 3, we obtain C2H6O. It's okay? Now how to calculate empirical formula in certain problem? Problem number 1. Okay, to solve this problem, the relative molecular mass of an alcohol is 88. The percentage composition by mass is C, carbon 54.5%, hydrogen 9.1%, oxygen 36.4%. This alcohol formed from 3 elements. All alcohols formed of 3 elements, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now, which row shows the empirical formula and the molecular formula for this alcohol? To solve this problem, we have several steps. The first step here, to change the percentage composition of the 3 elements into masses. Okay, change into masses. How come? Suppose we have 100%. Okay, replace this percent by mass per gram. So we have 54.5 gram of carbon in each 100 gram of this alcohol. Okay, for hydrogen 9.1, for oxygen 36.4. Just substitute percent by gram. Now, to obtain, as you know from periodic table, carbon, its relative atomic mass AR equal 12. Hydrogen relative atomic mass equal 1. What about oxygen? Equal 16. Okay, so third step here, number of moles. We have to calculate number of moles. How come? By dividing given mass, I mean 54.5, divide 12 for carbon to obtain 4.54 moles of carbon. Okay, the same procedure carried out on hydrogen. So 9.1 divide 1 equal 9.1. 36.4 divide 16 equal 2.28. Now we obtain three figures of moles of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Next step, by dividing the smallest number of moles, I mean 2.28. This is the smallest mole number for oxygen. By divide all the three elements on or by 2.28. So 4.54 divide 2.28 equal 1.99. For hydrogen, 9.1 divide 2.28 equals 3.99. For oxygen, 2.28 divide 2.28 equal 1. Now we obtained more ratio between the three elements, nearly or approximately. For carbon, we obtain 2. For hydrogen, 4. For oxygen, 1. So the empirical formula for this compound equal C2H4O. Okay, so the answer A. C2H4, the empirical is the same like molecular formula for this alcohol. It's okay. Number 2, the compound contains 34.5 calcium, 24.1 silicon, and 41.4 oxygen by mass. What is its empirical formula? Okay, A, P, C, or D, with the same steps like in problem 1. Okay, calcium, silicon, oxygen. Percentage then converted into masses per gram with the same figures. Here, for calcium, 40 AR, relative atomic mass of calcium, 40. For silicon, equal 28. For oxygen, still equal 16. So, number of moles divide given mass for each element, divide AR for each element. So 34.5 divide 40 equal 0.86. For silicon, 24.1 divide 28 equal 0.86. Okay. For last element, oxygen, 41.4 divide 16 equal 2.59. Okay. Next step. To obtain more ratio, divide by smallest. The smallest here, 0.86. Divide each figure from previous step on or by 0.86 to obtain 1 for calcium, 1 for silicon, 3 for oxygen. So here empirical formula for this compound, CaSiO3, calcium silicate. So the answer is B. Okay. Number 3. What the empirical formula of an oxide of iron formed by reacting 2.24 gram of iron with 0.96 gram of oxygen? Okay, he asked about empirical formula for this oxide of iron. Iron, Fe, oxygen O, gram, directly gram, no percentage, okay? 2.24, 0.96, 4 AR of iron equal 56, for oxygen equal 16. So to obtain number of moles, divide by AR, 2.24 divide AR, 0.96 divide AR of oxygen to obtain these figures of number of moles. And then mole ratio divide by smallest. I mean divide by 0.04 now. To obtain 1 mole for iron, 1.5 mole of oxygen. Remind yourself with the definition of empirical formula. Simplest whole number ratio. Whole, no decimal. So to cancel this decimal figure for oxygen 1.5, we have to multiply by 2. So after multiply by 2, The empirical formula we obtained Fe2O3. Okay, here times 2 for iron, times 2 for oxygen to obtain 3 for oxygen and 2 for iron. Okay, so the answer now Fe2O3, the letter C is the correct answer. Okay, which formula is an empirical formula? Empirical formula C2H4O, C4H8O2, C3H7COOH, CH3, CH2, CH2, COOH. Okay, here is certain difference in procedure of answering. After rewriting the molecular formula given in the question, okay, we obtain this figure. Okay, in second column, C2H4O, C4H8O2, then after summation of carbon atoms and hydrogen atom in third compound, we obtain C4H8O2. What about its empirical formula? For second one, look please, for second one, this factor 2, okay, divide by 2 to obtain C2H4O, the same for the third one, the same for the fourth one. What about number 1? Number 1 here, it is odd number for oxygen. We have no common factor, okay? So here, it is already the simplest whole ratio. This compound represents the simplest whole ratio. So the answer is A. This is empirical, already empirical. Why? Because no common factor between atoms of different elements in the compound. No factor to divide by. Okay? The hydrocarbon C4H8 has two structural isomers, but1-ene and but2-ene. Which statement is correct? But2-ene has the structure formula CH3, CH, double bond CH, CH3, and the same general formula as butane. Let's check each one. Here for but2-ene. As you know, but2-ene belong to alkene CnH2n. So C4H8. What is empirical? CH2. What about butane? Butane C4H10, where butane belong to another homologous series equal or named alkane. Alkane with the general formula CnH2n plus 2. So its structure formula equal C4H10. What is empirical? Divide by 2, C2H5. Both written samples, the empirical formula for two different compounds, but not the same. So the answer is wrong. Okay? Statement A is wrong. What about letter B? Let's check. Here, C4H8, but2-ene. It's empirical CH2. What about ethene? Ethene belongs to alkene, where C double bond C is present. Cn H2n. So ethene C2H4. It's empirical CH2 also. Now both empirical formulas are the same. So the answer is B. Okay, the answer is B. To check letter C, let's check C and D also. Okay, now but1-ene has a structure formula. How many carbon? 4. How many hydrogen? 3 plus 2 plus 1, 6 plus 2 equal 8. Okay, so it's empirical here, CH2. Okay, right. What about butane? C4H10. Divide by 2, so it's empirical C2H5. Here, the empirical formulas are different, so letter C is wrong, not the same general formula. What about letter D? C4H7. But1-ene, like but2-ene, like normal butane, all these forms with the same structure formula C4H8. Here C4H7. So this incorrect from beginning. Okay, this C4H7 is wrong. So the answer G is wrong. Now the correct answer is B. The incomplete equation for photosynthesis is shown. W CO2 factor called W CO2 plus XH2O reacts to give B P plus YO2. Compound B is product of reaction. Product is a product of reaction, which row describes the values of W, X, and Y and gives the empirical formula of the compound B. Here, as you know, from your study in bio or even in chemistry, this equation is important as one of the photochemical equations present in your syllabus. Look, please. Here, W equals 6 CO2 plus 6H2O reacts in presence of light and chlorophyll to produce glucose, okay, E, and 6O2 as waste gas, okay? So what's the relation between W, X, and Y? Values of W, X, and Y in the first column are the same. Yes, all equal 6. Each one equals 6. Each one of them equals 6. So A or B? The answer is A or B. Okay. Now for empirical formula of compound B. What about compound B? B is glucose, is formed as simple form of carbohydrate with the symbol C6H12O6. It's empirical by dividing common factor 6. So we obtain empirical formula equals CH2O, like all carbohydrates, CH2O. Okay, so the answer now is A. Okay, the answer is A. Thank you.